resistance? Very quickly, Yusuf.
Well, in terms of Orit and her coffee vision, I like it. It's original. It's different. You know, she's from Ethiopia, so there is that authenticity there in terms of what she's doing. Similarly, when you look at Devyani, you know, she's obviously very passionate about sportswear, about activewear, really sees an opportunity there and really wants to grow her business as well.
Potential weaknesses or pitfalls?
I think in terms of weaknesses and pitfalls, you know, in the same order, if I look to Orit's business, she struggled sometimes maybe to articulate what it is that made it special and to have a very clear vision for her product and her brand. Similarly with Devyani, you know, it is a .com business. This is a very fickle part of the world when it comes to e-commerce, you know, and you know, so the opportunity there, you know, is to be considered.
Eileen Wallace.
I liked both of them, and I thought that they both had passion, and I thought they both had vision for their brands. It seemed to me that Orit had a stronger actual sort of business strategy and seemed more established in terms of the history of her family and the company, and seems to have a good, you know, supply chain and control of the actual product. But I agree with Yusuf, it didn't seem that she was able to really package it and articulate it in as compelling a way as Devyani was. Equally, I actually don't feel terribly compelled by Devyani's business. What she's actually selling doesn't really actually interest me as a potential consumer, but I liked her, and she seemed to be organized and on the ball and have a vision of where the business was going.
Edward Roderick.
Well, let's start by saying two wonderful girls making it all the way through to the final, so it's always going to be a tough choice. If I look at the relative strengths and weaknesses for both of them, I think both of them have picked very difficult and extremely competitive markets in order to go into. I think if you look at the relativity of it, in Devyani's case, she's importing product from the United States. The design will be originated there, not necessarily suitable to the region, and therefore it will be very difficult to pick those products. Also, she has to protect herself against competition, and therefore the quality of her contracts with her suppliers may well determine that. But on the strength side, she's got a very clear vision of what to do. She has a very structured approach to how the advertising is going to be utilised. She articulates all of what she does very well. And she herself comes from the background of retail and a retail family. So I think that there was a lot of strengths on that side. If you then look at Orit, Orit also has a family background in coffee, etc. She's focused on the ethical side of things and also on products being natural and where they come from, and they're all trends that people are really focused at. She clearly has good ideas to get across, but articulated it not quite as well as Devyani. Both are very much startup businesses. Both have got a long way to go to prove themselves, but I think they've both got the energy and passion to do that.
Let's have a look at some of the SMSs we've had in. Someone writes in, they both did a great job. Please give them half each, half the prize. I'm sure a lot of people, myself included, would echo that. Loads and loads of support for them. Boon Coffee is the best for me. Please award it to a small business which has a real need for financial and logistical support. Boon Coffee sounds fantastic. I'm a new mum. I really like the idea of She Moves. There's so many messages of support. I tell you what we've also got is some messages of support from some of our contestants from earlier this week and last week. There is controversy. Not everyone agrees with the judge's decision on who got through to the final. Interesting comments, always glad to have them, but there's no doubt we got two very, very worthy finalists here. How about some of the comments that we had in from our listeners? We addressed those earlier, not the kind of, you're great, you're wonderful, you should win stuff, which is good and we're glad to have, but some of the more challenging ones. This idea, Eileen, that one of the comments about Boon Coffee was that perhaps in a world of Starbucks and the financial muscle of these companies, there's no room for a small niche player. I guess I'm slightly suspicious of that argument. And you as an entrepreneur, you've gone up against the big boys in your field, the Hill and Knowltons and the, you know, whoever it may be, and the WPPs, and carved out a boutique firm. In any industry, there will always be room, won't there, for a niche boutique who can do something a little bit differently and a little bit better.
Actually, I completely agree with Orit that quality is what people want at the end of the day. If you're delivering and you have the quality, then you're absolutely going to find customers for whatever it is that you're selling. And so even if she is competing with those major multinationals, that's why I was asking her about her story. What's the story behind the brand? Because that's how small brands grow into big brands. There's something about them that excites and compels sort of the consciousness of their potential market. And that's what helps them grow into big brands. You have to have that differentiating story. You have to have something memorable about your brand. And I think as much as I liked Orit, that's probably where she was struggling, where she could really use, the most help.
Yusuf Tukan, again, if we look at Flip Media, it's the biggest interactive advertising agency in the region, and yet it founded here in Dubai, this is its home. If you compare it to the giants like OMD, it is very small, and yet you are the biggest within your niche. So it can be done, can't it? How can it be done?
It can be done, but I think, the important thing is to figure out what you're good at and be it. And, like you said, we obviously, we compete against far bigger and far better funded companies every day of the week in terms of securing business. And I think the challenge really is to be very articulate in terms of who we are, what we're good at, and why we think we're special and why we think we're different. And which is part of the reason why I put such an emphasis on this with the contestants in terms of, if you had to give your elevator pitch, if you had to tell people why I should buy your coffee instead of Starbucks, or why I should buy your activewear instead of going to the mall to buy something, why would I want to be convinced of that? People are very fickle nowadays and they have very short attention spans, so you have to be able to sell to them quickly.
Listen, we need to get to a winner very, very quickly. Edward, final word to you on this. You were our first judge all those weeks ago. Here's my question. You represent, or you work for, you are investors, at least in North Africa now. You help bring investors, people with money, into small and medium-sized enterprises. What kind of questions would investors want to ask before they put some money into these two companies? Well, what do they need to do before they can get some cash if they wanted it?
Well, first of all, when we take people along to our investment meetings and they meet our investors, there are three fundamental questions that we get our investors to answer about them at the end of it. The first one is, what did you think of the idea that was being put forward to you? Secondly, what did you think about the quality of the management team who are going to deliver it? And thirdly, what did you think of the probability of the delivery of the investment strategy and the performance, the profitability that's going to go along with those things? And they are the questions that people will be asking about that. So sourcing, protection of contracts, maintenance of quality, underlying management team to support what's going on, logistical support,